My next guest is the Executive Director of Field Hockey Ontario. Please welcome Shauna Bookal. Shauna, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
For viewers and listeners, we first connected because I saw your LinkedIn post that I was absolutely amazed about and was really inspired about. And we'll talk about it, I guess, near the end. But first, Shauna, how did you start in the sport industry and where you're today in your career?
Yeah, well, like a lot of other people, I started, I was an athlete when I was in high school, but I was one of those athletes that got injured. I ended up tearing my ACL at a very, very young age. And I still wanted to be involved in sport. So I was actually introduced to the behind the scenes, the stuff that you don't see when you're playing the sports. So, how to organize an event, like refereeing, scorekeeping, all that fun stuff, which got me going into my career at Brock University. And it's when I was at Brock, I was actually mentored by some amazing people, like Dr. Lauren J. Adams, Sean Whiteley, Chris Critelli, Richard DeChatelet. A lot of these guys are now retired, but they actually helped develop me over 4 years while working at Brock while I was a student there, learning more sports outside of basketball, learning about how to dress professionally, how to talk to people, all those things that I just didn't know. They took the time to teach me over 4 years, which really helped me figure out what I wanted. During that time, I was able to work in athletics. So while I was at Brock, we have, and I believe Brock still has, a powerhouse of a wrestling program. So running the CIS championships and OUA championships, getting a chance to go to Halifax with the men's basketball program, that really opened my eyes up, to be honest, to see that sport and I really love the atmosphere of intercollegiate athletics. So I went on to do a post grad. While doing my post grad, they always encouraged us to do informative interviews. And it was when I was at Durham speaking with my professors, Ernie Rainbow and Barry White. They really they told me about the NCAA, and I didn't really know what it was because I really loved working intercollegiate. But they were saying, no, you want to go down south, like you'll really love working down south. So I really started to look into to do a master's program. Was very, very fortunate to go to West Virginia University to do my master's in sport management, where Barry and Ernie were 100% right that sports in the US were 100% different from working sports in Canada. And I just really love that environment, that atmosphere. When you have a very big game, so in West Virginia, our big game was against University of Pittsburgh. It wasn't just a 1 day thing. This was like a couple of days of leading up to it, and cheers, and the pride that everybody had. I just really, really loved being a part of that. And from West Virginia, I got a chance to go to Ohio State, work there. And again, that came from my informative interview. Back at Durham College, I wanted to be being a woman of color, there wasn't a lot of us in that position. So I reached out to some of the people that were in the position I wanted to get into. Michelle Willis was one of them at Ohio State, and she said to me, "Hey, if you're ever in Ohio, keep in contact." I just happened to be in Ohio to do a grad assistantship from West Virginia. I reached out to her, and I was very, very fortunate and blessed to land a job at Ohio State as the marketing coordinator for women's basketball. So for me, kind of a little full circle there from an informative interview, didn't realize what it would do for me to actually getting a job at Ohio State from the person I interviewed many years ago as a student. So little full circle, which really propelled my career. Unfortunately, like anything else, had to come home to Canada after recession hit and we lost our jobs. I was there on a work visa, but coming back home to Canada after working in the States and working athletics, it wasn't the same. After working for a bit in Canada in athletics, I had an amazing and blessed opportunity to work the Pan Am Games, like World Cup, FIBA, all these amazing events that came to Canada. And that actually introduced me to another side of sport that I did not know exist in these major games. And I have so much respect for the people I've met along those channels because these people a lot of them actually move from country to country and follow these games every 3 or every 4 years. They're in a different country, a different city, adapting to different cultures. I wasn't going to do that, but I was very lucky that all of these events came to Canada. So I was able to stay at home because I do have a young daughter, raise my daughter, still be with my family, and work these like sporting events right here in my own backyard, like being a part of history. And never say never, because I swore up and down that I would never work for a provincial sport organization, because that's how I started with my volunteering way back in high school. And 20 plus years later, I'm here running a provincial sports organization, let alone the sport of field hockey, which I did not know anything about until I actually started. And I'm very fortunate that community has taken me in and has taught me their sport. And for the past almost 2 years, it's been an amazing ride.
In school, Shauna, at Brock, I know a lot of my fellow peers and myself were looking at um, professional sport, but once you actually start going through the process of the program at Brock with sport management, you start learning that there's a lot of other different ways. And the one of my goals is for this podcast show platform is to have different specialties of industry professionals. That's the whole goal. So that's a great story. Um, Shauna, what are your daily tasks and responsibilities as the executive director at Field Hockey Ontario?
Definitely never a dull moment. And especially with this year having COVID-19, that's played a huge role for us. But outside of COVID, if this was a normal year, a day task is looking at different grant applications, because as a not for profit, we do depend on different grants to keep afloat. I'm also our main liaison with our board of directors. So I have like bi-weekly meetings with my president just to keep him appraised of what's going on, especially with COVID. And then, of course, with Rowan's Law that came into full effect on July 1st. It's always just making sure that our board of directors is up to date on everything that's taking place. Sponsorship and revenue is also another big part of my task. And this year we are working on our strategic plan. So we're working on our 5 year strategic plan for 2021. So for the past couple of months, that has been a huge thing on my plate right now.
Shauna, was it difficult to figure out a new way for funding because of this pandemic? And obviously, the economy isn't doing really well, but was that a hard adjustment to kind of figure out a new way?
It is. It gets you definitely thinking of your like being creative. Like how creative can one person be? And I'm very fortunate that we have a great team, and our administrative and events coordinator. She's been a great help from that aspect, and even people that I've reached out to from like my past inner circles. And networking is always key in any industry that you do. So having some of my former contacts and being able to reach out to them. And some of them would be like, you know what, right now is not a great time, but contact me in August or September. So it's just having that little reminder to reach back out to them in August or September when they think things might be a little bit more settled, to go about getting sponsorships for the future.
That's what I really noticed in the past few months, Shauna, that networking is everything. I knew networking
So
was really important before, but when
it comes into play right now. It's very, very
yep.
key. Definitely networking has been a huge, huge part of where we are right now with field hockey and where I am right now in my career, because I know um, along the way you meet a lot of people who will like help you out and will open some doors, and then you meet some people that will test you a little bit to kind of like keep you on your toes and provide you with lifelong lessons down the line.
Shauna, I was going through your LinkedIn profile and
Yeah.
I saw a lot of praises on your leadership style and your strategic approach, and I thought that was really cool. So I wanted to ask you, what is your philosophy and in strategic approach to leadership?
The one thing I learned from my times volunteering with Basketball Ontario, and this was back when I was in high school. Like, so when I first started doing this, I had the pleasure of working with a lady by the name of Darcel Wright and Irene Watt, who was the executive director at the time. and they both told me a couple of lessons if I want to be successful was to never give somebody work that I wouldn't do myself, because it's just, you always want to lead by example. So I'm the type of person where if I'm going to ask my staff to sort uniforms and to do inventory, I'm going to be right beside them doing inventory. Or sometimes I might do that first and then ask them to either update it down the line so they can see that I've done my part and not just being a dictator to them from that end. And the other part is also, they always showed me, well, not only just lead by example, but it's also like give your team ownership, allow them to take on some projects, allow them to help them grow as a person, and not always telling them what to do, because you never know, they might have a great idea. You want to help them grow and you want to see them flourish into their career. So I've kept that with me from when I was a teenager, because I some of the stuff that they had me doing, from doing the mail outs, and this was before those automated machines would do it for you, um, putting packages together, like doing inventory. So I've been there, I've done that. I know what it feels like. And like, I definitely want to make sure that if I'm going to give somebody else that exact same task, that they know that I know I've been there, and like, I'm not just doing it to be a mean person.
I think midway through my university experience, Shauna, I I don't know if it was a debate about myself, but it was something that I noticed that I didn't know how to. I didn't want to micromanage, but also
Yeah.
I didn't know the right time to kind of be hands on and hands off. How do you approach that?
Sometimes I just have to look at the people I'm working with, because you can tell by people's personalities. And sometimes if I'm not sure, I will, like, I've been known to be very blunt in my approach, or a person that will just go and like be straightforward. I will ask them. I will ask, "Are you comfortable in this situation?" But I won't do it in front of a group. It might just be like you and I having a conversation to the side, or like, if we're having our one-on-one conversations, to be like, hey, I'm thinking of, like, putting you in charge of doing X, Y, and Z, are you good with that? And they might say, you know what, I'm not ready just yet, or I just might need a little bit more time, whereas some people might be like absolutely ready to go, like put me, like, I'm there for you. So people that you have, and being able to read their body languages, and also knowing their personalities, because if you have somebody that's usually quiet and shy, they're not ones that really want to be up front and lead right away. They might take some time to warm up to it. Whereas if you have somebody that's very outgoing, a go getter, usually they're the first ones to volunteer. So knowing your staff and knowing their personalities also kind of helps.
Shauna, so transitioning to your LinkedIn post, before I ask you the next question, I just want to ask, what made you um, post your LinkedIn uh, post, and can you tell us about kind of the backstory to it and the thought process? And because I really want, um, as I said before, I really want this platform to be informative, and I think it's really important for
Mhm.
people to know.
Well, it was actually something I saw from two different posts on social media. God love social media these days. One week I saw a post, and it was from a young girl, and she was just finishing up her third year of university in her program, and it's in sports, really considering switching her major because she was tired of being the only Black person in her class. She was tired of only being that Black person that's that volunteer or in that work industry, and she just didn't see anybody else that either walked in the same footsteps as her or that are in the same shoes as her. So she wasn't feeling comfortable, and she just wanted to switch careers. During that same time, like a couple of days later, my friend Narissa Samuels, she posted like on her social media, she was reaching out saying, like, you know what, if you're out there and you are alone, or you think you're alone working in this industry as a minority, not alone. And after seeing Narissa's post, it really dawned on me that having the platform that I have, being executive director at a PSO, especially during the times that we're going through, I do want other people to know that you are not alone. I know exactly the different footsteps you're going into. When I was at Brock University, I don't even think there was five of us, like Black students or like diversity that went through sport management. When I went to Durham, I was it as the only Black student when I graduated from Durham College in the sport management program. And then it was the same thing when I went to West Virginia. I was the only Black person. Normally, when I volunteer, and sometimes I don't, I don't notice it, but other people do. Like other people will always be the first ones to point out, like, "Hey, did you know you're the only Black person here?" And you kind of look around and be like, I did notice, but thank you for like bringing more awareness to it. I've learned to sometimes brush it off, but sometimes people don't take me serious, especially if I'm in a supervisor role or if I'm in a leadership role. And I just have to be able to gain their trust and like show them I do know what I'm talking about, or I am capable of doing the work. And um, it's hard to get rid of that stigma of I'm only here to be that token minority for the group. But like I always try to tell people, especially coming up behind me, it's okay to use that as turn that into a positive. Turn that into it's like, yes, I might be the only minority here, but I didn't get hired to like me being a minority is just an added bonus. I got hired based off of my skills. I got hired based off of like what I'm able to bring to this team, and I'm going to show you what that is. Some people might like it, some people won't like it, and it's just being able to shrug it off and just continue to do what you do and to not give up because you don't see other people that are like you. That one young girl who was going to switch out of her major, we just said to her, it's like, if you want to switch out of your major, that's still your call. But sometimes you might need to be that trailblazer. You might need to be that role model for that younger generation looking up to you to see, it's like, you know what, I can do. I want to take that opportunity in the position that I have. Because for me, growing up, I didn't really see a lot of minorities in these positions, especially female minorities. And I wanted to put myself out there to let them know you have someone that you can talk to. I do know what it feels like to be that student, to be that volunteer, to be that employee. And it's okay because you know what? Things will get better. And it's like sometimes it just starts with us from within.
The individual Shauna that you mentioned, that came to you, in my humble opinion, nobody should be feeling like that ever. And and I took this question from well, I designed the question from your LinkedIn post. And were there any obstacles or difficult moments in your career, and how did you overcome these obstacles?
There, I've had a lot like throughout my career, and like, so for a lot of people that don't know, like I grew up in Malvern, and Malvern's in Scarborough. And whenever people hear the word Malvern, they think inner city. And you took somebody from Malvern, and I actually went to Brock University. So you're kind of going from night and day from like being in a very diverse neighborhood. Like, you know, I'm seeing people that look like me all the time, like Caribbean restaurants, all these things. And then I go to Brock University, and St. Catharines didn't have what I was used to. And for a while there, I was a little uncomfortable, but I was very blessed with meeting Lauren Adams. And one of the things when I was at Brock was when you work in games, I wasn't used to wearing dress clothes. So I wasn't used to wearing like, you know, the khaki pants or the black dress pants and the golf shirt because I was just used to wearing sweats all the time, 24/7. I was used to wearing track. The one thing, Lauren, because he saw that, that really made me uncomfortable that I didn't have like the proper clothes to wear when I was working. And he was like, I'm going to tell you a little trick. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, buy a pair of black dress pants. And he was like, buy a pair of black dress pants and you can wear those pants over and over and nobody will know. He was like, just change your shirt. So you might wear a white golf shirt one day, or you might have on another dress shirt another day, but your pants might be the same. So that was something because at the time I can't afford to buy brand new sets of outfits to wear every single day. So, and especially being on a student budget. So that was like my trick for 4 years was I might buy two or three pairs of nice black dress pants so I could have, and then I had the different shirts to change. So I was able to find those allies. I was able to find those people who would help me throughout my career because that was a definite obstacle for me was I didn't dress the part. Other obstacles for me was I definitely don't look the part. So it's when I would show up to do interviews or things along those lines, like you can see the whispers, you can see people talking, especially when you get into a supervisor role. Some people, like, they don't understand why or how you get these positions. And it's hard. Like, you'll hear people talking about you. You'll hear people saying stuff like, right now, my hair is straight, but if it rains, my hair is going to get all frizzy and it's going to go into an afro. So sometimes people will make judgments on that, on like the different appearances, or I'm dark skinned compared to being light skinned. I cannot tell you the amount of accreditations I have, and you can't even see my face because of how it prints out. Or it's we might be in front of a black background, which I'm like, you're putting a dark person in front of a black background, not the smartest move. So sometimes it was, you, I would look at those as obstacles when I was younger, but as I got older, I saw those as teaching opportunities. And it's like, you know what, maybe not just giving volunteers a dark shirt, especially when you have people of color, like having different color options or having colors that will like complement skin tones or things from that end. I've also learned along the way that there are some events where I'm like, I'm not sure I want to volunteer at because I just think they're just not comfortable for me to do. But there are other events where I know the people, I've worked with them before, and I know I'm going to have a great experience, like going back and working with those same people. So, um, like an event I can give for an example, because I was never sure how it would go, was volunteering at the Rogers Cup. I've never been to a tennis event, never worked a tennis event. I was nervous, but then I had a good friend tell me about volunteering at Rogers Cup. I went my first year, met some amazing people, and they are like my once a year family. So, all different walks of life, different types of sport. They welcomed me into a sport that I never thought I would be welcomed at. And it's been like, I miss it this year. This would have been my third year doing it, but it was definitely something where when I feel welcomed or when I gain, like, earn that trust with different people, that's kind of where I go. I've learned a long time ago there are just things that, you know what, pick and choose your battles. Some battles you're going to win, some battles you're not going to win, and that's how I look at those obstacles. I want to be able to put myself in a position right now to be successful, to enjoy life, to have fun, and that's kind of how I look at it now as an adult, but it's definitely changed over the years.
Sean, I'm a big fan of Gary V. Do you know Gary V? He's a he's an entrepreneur, and he's a motivational speaker. And recently, I've been on his page, and he's saying to individuals to express kindness to others.
Yeah.
And and he's and he mentioned social media before, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially what he said was, if you're on social media and you're giving hate to people, I I think he was saying that you should check yourself, because you know how much pain that you have to be in to express hate to others. And I found that when I was watching this video of him, I thought, I'm like, wow, like this is so true. And I think we're in this place now, Shauna, where I hope individuals express kindness to others, and the circumstances that, or the events that you went through, is something that I hope never happens to anybody, because it's just not right. And from that, I wanted to ask you, what is your advice for minority students navigating the sport industry?
Yeah. If I had to, and I get that, I get probably asked this question maybe once a week when I have students reaching out. And my advice to them, and it will always be, is to just continue to volunteer. You need to put yourself out there and volunteer. Again, for me, growing up, my sport was basketball. While at Brock in 4 years, I had to take myself, because basketball doesn't start until January or like late October, November. But in the meantime, there's other sports. So I learned cross, I learned um, wrestling, you're learning volleyball, soccer, like rowing, figure skating. There's other sports out there. So get yourself out of your comfort zone and learn different sports, because look at me now. I'm working at field hockey, no field hockey background, but I'm able to take everything I've learned from my other sports, from my other jobs, and transition it into what we need here at field hockey while I'm learning a new sport. Um, I always tell them, network. you want to network, and that's not just for minority students, that's just for anybody out there. You want to be able to network with people, whether it be through LinkedIn, whether it be through going to conferences, when you're at events. It's sometimes taking that step forward and introducing yourself to people. Um, I met a gentleman when I volunteered at hockey at the World Juniors, and I think this was back in 2015, 2014, 2015, when I volunteered there. And this gentleman was asking me, like, it wasn't even just asking me, he just put a general question out there saying, hey, does anyone know a good basketball group for young girls in like the Hamilton area? And I was like, oh, you definitely want to go. And I recommended Hamilton Transfer. Like when I grew up playing basketball, that was like the best girls program out there in that area. And it's still one of the top programs to this day with just the fundamentals they teach these girls, et cetera, et cetera. And we just kept that little rapport going, emailed each other once in a while just to like, hey, how's it going? Did you end up going in that program? And now fast forward to 5 years later, and his daughter plays field hockey. And it was funny when it's like, he reached out to me on the email because he saw my email address and I remembered him and he remembered me. So it's just one of those things you just never know when you just kind of network and you put yourself out there, who you're going to meet and how it can come back full circle. And the third thing I always try to tell students and I tell everyone is to be true to yourself. Don't try to be somebody different. Don't try to act a different way. If you have an accent, you have an accent. If your hair is curly, your hair is curly. If you wear it straight, you wear it straight. Just don't try and change who you are to fit into society, because then that's just one of those things where you're going to have to keep up this appearance all the time. And it's just easier to be who you are and be true to yourself from the very beginning. And if it's meant to be for you, it will, like, everything will work out. And sometimes you think that this is your dream job or this is where you want to be, and sometimes harsh reality might kick in. That's okay. I've had it happen to me several times, and I'm very grateful for those harsh realities because it has turned out to be a blessing for me as I've had other doors and other opportunities open up that were a better fit for me and accepted me for me.
Quick story over the weekend. Uh, a first year student who is first going into first year as sport management at Brock uh, emails me on LinkedIn, and I don't want to say his name because I'm not sure if I have permission. But essentially, what he was saying to me was he lives in a different region than St. Catharines, and in his region, he was trying to find industry professionals where he was trying to network with. And I was thinking in my head, I'm out of Brock, and I was just trying to figure out how did this individual find me, and I and but I was so honored. I was really honored that he messaged me and asked for advice, and I sent a message back, and now we're communicating. And I think giving back is so important, and that's what I realized is essentially, especially in my university career, is giving back is so important because that I guess if you're the president of Brocksport Management Council, you want the next group to be just as successful, if not more successful, and you keep getting better, so everybody gets better, and that's how society should be, in my opinion. Is that we teach individuals teach other individuals to keep um, moving society in a positive direction to keep getting better.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I wasn't too sure even before I put that post out, saying like, reach out. Like having people reach out to me just because they're like, we've never seen like another black female working as an administrator, because some of, like, especially in Canada, there really isn't a lot of us. And what resonated with a lot of people was I'm not a former athlete. Like I played in high school, and that was really to my extent. I never played university in Canada. I literally worked from the ground up. I don't have that name recognition, and it was just going out there and really going out, being myself, and working. And it's been a long road, but it's a road I would never exchange or want to take back anything. Everything has been a great lesson in life, learning lesson especially.
And on a really good note and a happy note, and I ask this to everybody
Mhm.
because I just love hearing people's experiences in sport, and I feel like this question really motivates other people to uh, get involved in sport or try to have a career if you're a student or if you're a fan or whatnot. So, what is your most memorable experience in the sport industry so far in your career?
Oh, I've definitely worked a lot of different events, been a part of them. But one event that really, really sticks out to me, and it's definitely still tugs at my heart, is the Invictus Games that took place here in Toronto back in 2017. Um, the Invictus Games showed the power of what sport can be. And for people, it's just not about winning that gold medal. It's there's so much more to sport, and watching the family and the friends, everybody coming together to support these former veterans was amazing. Seeing like these veterans compete, whether if they've lost a limb or if they're suffering from PTSD. Um, it's just being able to be a part of that. Like it's hard to explain how it just moves you. And it just showed me that sport is more than a medal. Sport for a lot of people is it means different things, but seeing how it brought families together, it brought countries together, and like usually countries you probably won't see they giving each other a pat on the back or a hug or taking a picture, smiling, laughing, just seeing all of that in one building and being able to be a part of that is something I will never forget. And I've definitely been trying to. It was supposed to be in Netherlands this year, but COVID hit. It will be in Netherlands next year, and then in 2 years it's going to be in Germany. So my goal is to make it out to those two Invictus Games and continue volunteering in those countries with those games because, as I said, like this is an event I've actually kept in touch with a lot of people because it just means that much, and it just shows that there is more to life than just winning medals. So I'm very proud to be a sport manager, especially after being a part of that event.
Sean, I just admire you so much, and and of all the episodes that I've done so far, this is the one that um, I really want people to watch because of because of your story. And like I said before, I really want to make this platform informative. And and if and I say to everybody that kind of texts me about this, and if or message me about it, if someone can take something from each conversation, especially this one, to learn and to be better. That's that's why I do this. I'm not getting paid. I'm recently out of school. The times are uh,
Yeah.
not the best, I think, for anybody, and so that's essentially why I do this. And um, the end, I just want to say, kindness, acceptance, diversity. These are the things that we really need to work on. I think as a society to be better, and that's just my humble opinion. And I just can't thank you enough for doing this. As I said before, I really admire you. Your
Thank
post
you.
on LinkedIn was phenomenal. I loved reading it, and I reached out right away because I just thought more people should know about it and learn from it. And so, sorry for the ramble, but thank you once again.
No, thank you. And it's people like you, like being able for us to share that platform. Like I consider you guys and out here so we can share our story. And it's it's people like you are reasons why we're still able to do what we do as well. So thank you for taking this time out. Thank you for doing what you do and realize that you are touching a lot of people out there. And we do appreciate you volunteering and spending your hours upon hours doing these interviews, doing these edits, getting it up there because it does take a lot of work and we do appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Shauna. Before we go, that as I said to you off air, that editing and putting together these interviews, and I'm very thankful that I have two individuals that are working with me with this project that are my very close friends, and it's not just me; it's also Hugh and Natalie. But it's difficult. It's not easy. And if the one thing that I would say, if you really want to learn about yourself, I think start a podcast, because
Yeah.
especially like my communication skills for just on this experience of alone has increased significantly and enhanced my personal development. And um, especially during this time, I said before on a different platform that the one of the things I really believe in is investing in yourself. And to keep going, I don't know how long this podcast or show is going to go on for, because I would like to get hired, but we'll see. And so we'll see. Last words is yours, and I just say thanks once again for doing this.
Oh, it was my great opportunity. I'm glad we got to do this. And I know we will probably, not probably, I know we will run into each other in the near future at a sporting event, or probably just down the road once everything clears up.
Absolutely. Shauna, Bookal, everybody.